Welcome, everybody, to the first Tuesday of 2024, the first Tuesday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. This one is for you. This is our annual year-end recap, community appreciation, and we've got a special surprise here. Greg and I are going to recap the year, and then my team has gone out and counted exactly how many times y'all have shown up here, and we're going to do a top 10 attendee, show supporter, super fan countdown, and we got 6 folks that are part of that countdown. They don't know what number they are, so it's going to be a big reveal, and you're going to talk to each of them on the way. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, starting the new year, the man that I like to call GC because of his genius concepts, because he knows how to generate cash flow, because he's a great co-host, and because his name is Greg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Great to be with you here on 2024.
It is great to be back in studio. We're just talking on Tuesday and Thursdays of the week that we shut down and go dark. We're just disoriented. What do you do? What do you do at 12:30 on a Tuesday or
I was
Thursday?
getting hit up by text from my family. They're like, Greg, this hour now is it's blah. What do we do to fill this hour? 2 hours on Tuesday and Thursday. So we're back now, though.
We are back, baby. And speaking of back, we got another thing that's become a tradition that's back. Our Not Your Average Investor event, newly graduated to Not Your Average Summit. Ooh. Not Your Average Investor Summit. GC, talk to me about it. February 16th, 17th, Jacksonville, Florida. What else do you want to say?
I mean, this is the opportunity to step out of the internet world where we usually get to meet with everybody and get to meet you face to face. So if you are already a JWB client and you haven't been to Jacksonville in a while to come and meet the team, you're going to be blown away when you get to meet the team, see how the team's grown, get a campus tour here in our offices, and then of course be able to see your investment properties. If you're a brand new client and you want to get the opportunity to shake hands and meet the people that are going to be managing potentially hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars for you, this is your opportunity to come and meet our team here at the Not Your Average Investor Summit. And for our community as well, this is our community, the opportunity for our community to jump in, to actually get to meet each other face to face. We've been doing this. This is the third year that we've been doing this. A lot of you have attended each one of the previous 2 years, and the stories that we get, the connections that are made are priceless. And so we get to do all of that against the backdrop of this incredible story of the downtown revitalization here in Jacksonville. So it is going to be an incredible event. We have a ton of folks that have already signed up. I think we're over.
I think we're at 35 at least.
35. We're going to be limiting this thing. We're going to be limiting it somewhere around maybe 50-ish. I don't know what we're going to be limiting it to. I don't know.
We talked about 50, but now that it's 35 and we've barely advertised it, I think we're rethinking this thing. But anyways, if you're coming, sign up now. Go to jwbsummit.com. GC, I got a confession to make. I did not know how to spell summit. So jwbsummit.com is JWB spelled like that. Summit is SUMMIT.com. JWBsummit.com. You know what this is not going to be, GC?
What's that?
It's not going to be average.
It is not going to be average.
Not even close to average. I remember last year, my favorite moment was when somebody that was new, she hadn't watched the show. She didn't really know about JWB. She pulled me aside at the final happy hour, and she just goes, "This company excites me."
I remember.
Man, it was
Dustin's mom, I remember.
It was Dustin's mom. That's right. That's right. It was Dustin's mom, I remember. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informative. And this is where we all come together. And I think today's just kind of like a little taste of that on Zoom. But we all know that it's not the same once you get the energy of everybody in the room. A lot of folks that are here today are coming. Some haven't been yet. Some have. Maybe we can hit on that as we go through the top 20. But jwbsummit.com, that's summit with 2 M's and 1 T, in case you are uneducated like myself. And, we'll hit on as we go through the top 10 attendees. But right now, we got another thing to go through, GC.
It's the roll call, baby.
We got Lee Bishop kicking us off here in the chat. Mr. MVP, you may have heard of him. We got our leadoff hitter, as usual.
John Henning.
Batting number 2. We got the early bird in the house.
Mr. Dean Curry, first person to sign up for the summit.
First bird, obviously, characteristically so. We got the fairy godmother who's also coming to the summit.
Of course she is, Miss Jen Filzen.
Jen Filzen. We got Christopher Lee from Fernandina Beach checking in.
All right, Christopher.
We got Bill Shields with Buenas tardes, amigos. Buenas tardes, Bill Shields. Good to have you in the house. We got Jeff Bolton with a happy new year for everybody. Jeff, good to have you, sir.
Happy New Year.
Chris Gonzaga from the
illustrious Hudson
Valley. Chris, good to have you back in the house. Who else? We got Billy Green.
The Mountain Man. I wonder if he's going to be in the top 10 list for 2023, 4-ish.
We'll see. We got some. We got something to read out, but I know he's coming to the summit.
Oh yes, fantastic.
He's definitely bought his. We got the patron Santorius of the community,
Michael Santorius
from Northern Virginia. We got Leo Furback. Leo, good to have you back rocking with us in the house, my friend. We got the Maven from the mountains of Denver.
Leslie Wilson
also already bought her ticket to the summit. She'll be back.
Fantastic.
She'll be back. Jeff Pettyjohn in the house from Northwest Missouri.
All right, Jeff.
Jeff, good to have you back, my friend. We got our regulars, Gary and Rosalind Riley, who have RSVP'd to the summit from Murrieta, California. We regard you. Good to have you in here. Who else? Pamela Myers is back in the house. Happy New Year's to you, Pamela, from Seattle. Glenn Schenkin. Good to have you. Wishing us a Happy New Year's. Happy New Year to you. Zach Correa, the legend himself. Aloha nui loa, everyone. I assume that's Happy New Year's in Hawaiian.
Sounds great.
Zach, we love having you, buddy. And you know who else we love having here is our favorite name to pronounce, Aaron O'Neill.
Into the light.
Good to have you, Aaron, in here. I know that Aaron and Big Earn have bought tickets.
Absolutely.
Coming back for a second year. Can't wait to hang out. Vic Mudrick in the house.
All right, Vic.
From Virginia.
Long-time client.
Yeah, good to have you. Lewis Hudnell, rocking in Rockland, California, formerly Milipitas.
Very good. Very good.
Lewis, I know that you
guys. How about those Steelers, by the way?
I was about to say.
Resurgence.
I am a huge Steelers fan this weekend because if we beat the Bills and y'all win, the Bills are out of the playoffs.
There we go.
I hate the Bills.
There we go.
So let's do this. I don't want to talk about the Dolphins, just for the record. Medj Garcia's in the house. Good to have you back, Medj.
Good to see you, Medj.
We got the better Greg in the house.
Greg Stone,
clearly. From New Jersey. He's hanging out here. All right, let's kick this off. GC, we like to recap the year before we get to our top 10 list over here. End of 2022, rolling into 2023. What do you remember?
You know, end of 2022, rolling into 2023, this onslaught of interest rate increases was in full effect. And everybody still had the memory of interest rates that might have been in the 3% or 4% that were early 2022. They still had those memories there. But what they also saw was 4, 5, 6, 7 straight increases of the Fed funds rate by the Federal Reserve, which indirectly raises all of our interest rates on the rental properties that we invest in and other investments as well. And so that was the theme. It was like, oh man, let's say uncle right now at the end of 2022 and 2023 is when people thought about how much interest rates were rising. They were getting into the 5s and into the 6s and a little bit higher. And people are like, I can't take anymore. I can't take anymore. That's how the year started in 2023.
Yeah, I would say the dominating story of the year is the interest and interest rates.
Yeah, very good. See what you did there.
Yeah, you like that? It has been the thing that started the year, and it's been the thing that's really dominated the year. But I remember that it was doing that at the end of 2022, and then 2023 started, and I felt like there was if I'm not wrong, there was a small dip in interest rates, kind of like by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. And I think it messed with everybody's mind because as people were saying, I can't handle anymore, as interest rates were going up and up and up, there was a brief drop in interest rates. And don't quote me on it. It was somewhere end of January, February timeframe somewhere, and interest rates actually came down. And we did a lot of discussion on how interest rates can actually come down even if the Fed doesn't drop the Fed funds rate. So we did a lot of education on that. And what happened there was mortgage applications went through the roof. Buying went back up. There was a lot of demand, and that's what happens when interest rates come down a little bit. Demand for housing went so far up, but that didn't last.
Yeah. Less just a blip on the radar.
That was just a blip.
When that first started. And it just kind of reminds me of where we are right now to a certain extent, right? Because we've had another tick down, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But secondary to interest rates, I think interest rate was the headline, but the reason why is because of people's fascination with pricing, right? And like these like headlines saying interest rates are going to go up, there's going to be a new housing crash. That was kind of the other overlying thing that we had to speak of often. And I think characteristically to this show, because we don't have average takes out here, you've been holding the fort saying that, yes, interest rates are dropping. It's going to reduce demand, but the supply dynamics are such that pricing are not going to, there is not going to be a crash because of the supply side. Tell me about kind of like pricing in the story there.
It was a lonely place.
I was here.
It was a lonely place. You were with me. You're right. It was still lonely to be one of the only educators out there saying that there was not going to be a real estate crash in 2023. Now the articles that are coming out is the real estate crash of 2023 that never happened. But if you asked anybody on the streets in the beginning of 2023 and going through 2023, if there was going to be a crash, everybody was, of course, expecting it. Articles were written, talking heads were talking a lot about it. But we sort of, in our own little corner of the internet here, we came forward and we said that was not going to happen. And here's why. It's because even as interest rates continued to go up and up and up, as we said that they would, as the Fed continued to raise the Fed funds rate, we knew that that is only controlling the demand side of the equation. There's this whole other side, which is the supply side of the equation, and supply and demand affect pricing. And on the supply side of the equation, we are way undersupplied in terms of housing across the country and in most markets, and definitely in Jacksonville. And we have talked about this, we measure it, we report on it often. And we just said, guys, what this is going to do is it's going to create a high floor of pricing. And you're not going to see prices come way down just because there's not enough supply. And that's what we've seen. So now everybody's like, I don't understand why this can't happen, but it's been real simple. I mean, we continue to talk about the same simple metric over and over and over again when it comes to supply. What's that?
Months of inventory.
There it is. So MOI, months of inventory. So, while interest rates went up higher than everybody thought they would, we all thought they were going to go up, but they went up higher than we all thought they would. They got close to 8%. Home prices continued to actually either stay flat or go up. They're up year over year in Jacksonville. And nobody else saw that happening, but that's what we said. And it was because having the experience to know that this isn't our first rodeo, and understanding that we can't just go off of the headlines. We have to look into the metrics behind both the demand side and the supply side. And so ultimately what we've seen is that even though home price affordability is a challenge, you've continued to see home prices tick up in many markets across the country, Jacksonville being one of them. Rent prices year over year have ticked up as well. And that's because of the housing shortage, which is not going to be solved anytime soon.
Yeah. And that's been really the through line of the year. It is interest rates going up, fear of interest rates going up and how that's going to affect the pricing, and yet pricing staying stable while interest rates continue to go up, and this housing class continuing to show how resilient it is. At some point in the year, we found a pattern that we could match to, right? Like everybody wanted to go back and think of the last recession, but the last recession was not one, as similar in the conditions. At some point in the year, you dug this up, and it was this idea that if we want to talk about cycles and we want to look at similar moments in history, it wasn't 2008 you go back to, it was 1981 you go back to. You want to tell us about that, GC?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many similarities between what happened at the end of the 70s and early 80s in comparing that to what's happening now in this housing market. And what ultimately happened is the Fed raised interest rates up considerably at the end of the 70s and into the early 80s as a way to tame down inflation. And what that did was that softened housing demand. But guess what? Housing prices didn't drop. They actually went up a little bit. in those years where interest rates went up so much in the early 80s, which is shocking to many people.
Which is shocking to me.
And then the next thing that happened is, guess what? The Fed at that time dropped interest rates, get them to more normal levels. And when you drop interest rates, the asset class that responds the most favorably in terms of price appreciation would be housing. And so what happened in the early 80s, as those interest rates came down, home prices actually went up at a rate that was higher than expected and higher than average at that time. And so if you start to draw the parallels here in 2023 and getting into 2024, the Fed raised interest rates faster than any other point over the last 40 years in 2023. Home prices did not drop. They did not go down. They actually held firm. And then what is about to happen is the Fed will be dropping interest rates at some point. The Fed will be dropping the Fed funds rate. You're already starting to see interest rates go down. And when you see that, you start to see mortgage applications go up and more buyers come into the marketplace. And what we expect to happen is that this is going to be a catalyst for home price appreciation. And so we expect to see significant home price appreciation over the next 3 years. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but I know that what you have here is you're going to have a bump to demand because interest rates are going to go down at some point, and you still have an undersupplied housing market. And so that's why this show is about showing you what's going to happen before it happens. And that's why when people are saying, hey, when's the best time to buy real estate? Well, it was, yesterday. Right. And right now, the opportunity is to buy in before interest rates go down dramatically because we see home prices starting to appreciate as that happens.
Yeah. And we're got an upcoming show on doing the math of exactly what I'm about to talk about here. But our thesis throughout the year, right, as this year has developed, we've taken the brunt of interest rate raises. We have shown that pricing has stayed stable / gone up a little bit. And we have seen what happens when it bumps down. Right. And we can also look at historical comparisons of as an economy, what it looks like the 80s. And our overall thesis for the year has essentially been the idea that people are asking themselves the question, okay, so do I buy now and lock in, what I've got and then ride the wave up and refinance later? Or do I wait to buy when the interest rates go down? There's maybe a little bit more cash flow in the first couple of years, but you're also going to buy at a higher price, even though it's a lower interest rate. So you don't really know exactly what's going to go on. And we're going to go deeper into that. But our overall takeaway, our belief is the idea that you are best served to not wait to buy real estate, but to buy real estate and wait. Meaning, if you get in now, you are locking in today's price point, and today's rate, right? But the beauty of it is that in the near future, when interest rates go down, you will have the opportunity to refinance. You keep your price, but you date the rate, right? So you drop that rate, it will increase cash flow. You get to, cash out on that appreciation that's going to happen, as opposed to just sitting with money on the sidelines that you don't know when that rate is going to go down. And more importantly, the moment that rate goes down, you're immediately paying the premium on price forever, as opposed to temporarily, which you do with rate. Did I get that right?
Well said, brother.
Okay, cool. And, anecdotally, that's kind of been my story. My wife and I were waiting to buy our primary home. We decided to invest in a duplex right now that interest rates just blipped down. And wouldn't you know it, this duplex that had been on the market for the last 6 months, interest rates dipped. We put an offer in on it, and I was immediately competing for another offer, right? So this idea that it's going to get harder to buy, if you were with us before when, inventory got really, really limited, that's highly likely. So it's better to buy now with open eyes, not a buyer's frenzy, lock in that price, and then refinance later.
I love it. I love your personal story too. It's what's happening.
That's what's happening. So that is our year-end review, GC. I think people kind of care about our year-end review, but they really care about our community and meeting the folks out here. So I really want to get into this. Before we do it, we're gonna count on our top 10 highest attendees. Then we're gonna ask them each a specific question of why this is valuable to you, because we know them. They become our friends because they show up here every single week and we know a little bit about them. That being said, I went through the roll call earlier. I only got about halfway through because there was so much. I do want to welcome new attendees. Scott from Houston. Good to have you here.
All right,
First
Scott,
time.
welcome.
Yeah, we got Van Pham saying Happy New Year as well from Texas.
Fantastic.
First time as well. Good to have you. Hope you make this a habit. We are a lively community here. Make a friend in the chat. All these folks are just friends of ours. So just check in and make a friend here. But right now, we're going to go with the top 10 best attendees of 2023. And leading us off at 10, no surprise, is our usual leadoff hitter, John Henning.
All right, John, congratulations. Number 10.
John Henning, the 10th most. At number 9 is a name that is familiar to many because they check in the chat all the time, but they've actually been past stars of the show. We've got the Johnsons, Troy and Misty Johnson from Colorado. Welcome back to the show, folks.
Thank you.
Misty and Troy, it's a pleasure to have you guys. And, we've had the opportunity to know you and to serve you for so many years. You're successful real estate investors in a number of different ways. You've done, I believe, a couple of different forms of real estate. You're JWB clients, so we get to manage your turnkey rental property portfolio. But that's only a part of the story. You're also successful entrepreneurs. You own your own business. Y'all are busy out there, right?
We're busy.
I don't even think I've started to talk about the kids. You've got a wonderful family. So, the question that I wanted to ask, and what if you would just share with the audience is, from an entrepreneur's perspective, somebody who has made a number of different investments, what brings you to the show over and over and over again? What's the message that resonates with you all the most?
I think for me, it's just, you have so much information about your market that we're not a part of. So we don't have any of that, news or stuff to look at. And so we're just here to learn from you.
Well, that's, is one thing that we do pretty well, right? We are able to supply that data, which, in real estate, you can read a lot of articles about what's going on, but there's no national real estate market. There is a very hyper-local real estate market, and the access to the information isn't exactly what you need, right? Unless you're a licensed agent and you're really well connected, and largely if you live in that area, it's really hard to get that information. So we love to supply that data and that education for everybody. It's something that we kind of do all day, every day here at JWB. But for you guys have this platform as well as, I believe you're Fortune Builder students. That's how you originally found us. Is that right? And so you have the opportunity to kind of, decide and pick and choose between which styles of real estate you wanted to go into. What was it about the passive approach, the single family rental property approach that jumped out to you as being your preferred choice?
I think it was the opportunities for passive income that'll take us into retirement. Because being self-employed, before we started investing, we had no form of retirement. So I was looking at working well into my 70s. And now I think in early 60s, I'll actually be able to retire and start to enjoy life for a change.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we love to do. Let's decrease that timeline to the financial goals that you have, because then you can choose what you want to do with who you want to do it, where you want to do it more often. So it sounds like we've had an impact in dropping that by maybe 10 years for you guys.
Good impact, actually.
Matter of fact, we just paid off one of our JW properties this January.
Let's go.
Fantastic.
I mean, I can echo.
We'll get to number 10.
That's right.
Love it. I can echo with what y'all are saying so much, right? Like being early in my entrepreneur journey, the idea of a conventional average retirement plan as an entrepreneur seems so foreign. And it really wasn't until, luckily being part of this community, I started buying up properties here too, right? And bought my 3 a couple of years ago. And now as we're looking at this, and my wife and I are buying a duplex, right? So we're buying our primary residence and one that we're going to rent out as well. We were just pinching ourselves of this idea of like, man, if we would have thought 5 years ago that we'd have 5 houses, like 5 doors, I guess is what real estate investors call it, under management, and what that means for our retirement as an entrepreneur, I don't think I could get that any other way. It was real estate that allowed me to then go out and hire a financial advisor, Kelly,
Mhm.
to then plan out the rest of it. But that foundation of having these like cash flowing properties that made it really real just speaks to me, kind of like what y'all are saying as someone newer in here. How do the two of you, do you ever talk about the show with friends? Like, how would you describe the idea that you show up to a internet talk show every Tuesday and Thursday, and you're one of the top 10 attendees? Do you ever tell anybody, how do you describe this whole experience to people?
Well, I mean, I've been trying to get my sister to come listen to the show and learn some about it, and she's usually at work on those 2 days, so she can't actually come. But I just tell her it's a great investment, and you should really look into it. So hopefully, she will someday soon.
What's your sister's name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, we're coming for you. We want you to be part of the community, buddy. Are y'all thinking about coming and do you think you're going to be able to make the meetup?
We're trying to figure out if we will be able to, but with the kids in school, that's kind of a hard time of year. So we'll have to just take a look at it.
2023 was a really rough year for us in the business side. With the interest rates, we had over a 50% drop in the number of houses produced in 2023. So
Wow.
more than likely, we're probably just going to be chilling here this year.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, we appreciate all of your support, not just the JWB clients, the opportunity to serve you in that regard, but you guys have been just a main staple of this community. So we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for being here and for being in the top 10 list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johnson. See you soon. We're just going to have to come out to Colorado and see you.
Yep.
All right. So that was the Johnsons, number 9. I'm going to run through 8 through 6 real quick before we get to our esteemed top 5 here. At number 8, we have the better Greg, Greg Stone, number 8.
Greg Stone.
From New Jersey.
Congratulations, the better Greg right there. It's just living up to the billing of your name.
Love it. Love it. Number 7, already confirmed for the tour again, because that is where he earned his nickname, Ride Along Raj Bantu, number 7.
Your ride along partner, the last tour that we had.
Riding out with us here at number 7. I love it, Raj. And of course, I think everybody's surprised that he's not in the top 5.
Ooh, this was it's tough to get in the top 5.
Tough. This is some real competition out here. The ringmaster,
Drew Barnhill.
Drew Barnhill, our friend who has since moved to Florida. Now he's local here. Came in studio. You all know him. You've all seen his face.
We'll be there for the summit.
We'll be there for the summit, of course. Got his nickname because he was a circus major in Florida State.
He was
circus major.
He was on the high wire.
He was a high wire guy.
We saw the pictures.
Don't let anybody tell you that Florida State is not a great educational institution, because Drew.
Sometimes as Gator fans, we go there because I think most colleges call that for other colleges, but we would never say that in Drew's presence.
Never say that. He's a very in shape man that I'm with a fierce grip. All right, Drew. Happy for you, man. Number 6. And now we get into the meat of the programming. We start off with number 5. We call him the patriarch of the first family of the Not Your Average Investor show. Ken Moline, welcome to the show, my friend. Known by many because you've been here a couple of times, right?
Yes, I've been on the show, I think 3 times now.
He's close to getting that Hall of Fame jacket that Paul Shively was talking about. It's a run for the money between the patriarch over here and Paul, but congratulations, Ken.
Sometimes the Duchess, Karen,
and
she's
the
with us in the Philippines right now.
There you go. Well, Ken, you know what I find fascinating about you? We've talked about your investing story and how unique it is and how you did this like reverse more. Like, it's an amazing story. Anybody that thinks you can't get started late in life or wants a real financial engineering solution, go out and check out Ken's episodes. Cody, I don't know if maybe you can share it in the chat, but what we'd love to hit on you is you've truly made this a family affair. Like we talk about y'all as the first family, and you took it seriously. It wasn't at first, it was just you and Carolyn, but then you've brought in the Duchesses and y'all watch this as a family. I know that there's others out there that are doing this. I know the Johnsons watch this thing together as well sometimes, right? We also have the Kirkos, Jim Kirko, Hall of Fame first baseman, watches it with his son. How did you gather the family around watching a Zoom call?
Well, when we first got into it, it was September of 2019 when we bought our first 2 houses. We had some cash money laying around we didn't know what to do with, and bought 2 houses for cash and got enthused by the program. You didn't have the Not Your Average Investor show on at that time, but we were keenly interested, and I'm don't know exactly how we got word, but JWB was offering an incentive to come back and visit your office. And so we did that. I believe it was November of 2019. Had a nice long meeting with Mike Stewart. And the key question in my mind was, how can I, as a retired individual in my 80s, how can I expand my portfolio here? I don't have a job. I don't have a paycheck. Is the bank going to lend to me? And I think Mike satisfied most of our questions, and we went ahead and said, let's dive in and try it. And sure enough, by January 2020, we had our third house, and we had a loan on it. And 2 months later, we had our fifth home.
And those weren't just, any time in the history of investing in real estate to invest. That was the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And, a lot of people were a little scared because of what we all endured in the beginning of 2020. But Ken, I remember for you, there was a lot of confidence. You were a part of the show very early on. You became a main staple in it. And it was something that I think a lot of people got confidence from your confidence in it. What allowed you to remain steadfast, confident, retain a peace of mind element with your investments as, quote unquote, the world was falling apart, thinking about the effects of the pandemic?
Well, I think the key issue was that the show or the investments provided what we needed in the way of additional cash flow. I had, by my 84th birthday at that time, I had run out of retirement money. And I'm sitting on a nest egg here with my home in Los Altos, California, where we've seen prices go up 10% a year. But how do I get into that? And the story is told in one of the episodes where we did a reverse mortgage on this house and got quite a bit of cash to use. And that's how we got into our first 5 homes. But the story is not unique to us. I think it's unique. It could be unique to anybody who is in their elderly years and maybe facing the fact that their retirement money is disappearing, but they're sitting on a nest egg and they're fearful of digging into that or diving into that gold mine and using it. I think it has been a tremendous asset for us to acquire in the 4 years that we've been with JWB. And I'm just as pleased as punch to be part of it.
Well, Ken, we're very excited that you, the matriarch, Carolyn, the duchesses of your daughters that hang out with
It was the
us.
original nickname too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Was he the original nickname?
I don't know. It was very early
I
on.
feel like Marilyn Cotterman might have had the original nickname
Yeah.
with the homosauce.
But then it really caught fire
Yeah.
with the patriarch.
It caught
and the
fire. It
matriarch.
caught fire with the patriarch and matriarch and the first family. Definitely first wave of nicknames. And we just appreciate the heck out of you, Ken. We love that. Yeah, everybody comes down. Y'all have come down for the meetup, that you've hosted meetups in your house in Palo Alto, or is it Palo Alto?
It's Los Altos.
Los
But,
Altos. I knew there was something Alto. Bill
yes,
Shields will correct me on that
but,
because he's a Spanish speaker.
Jen down at her house too.
And
that
Jen
just-
down at her house. Yeah. And Jen is actually announcing there's another Northern California chapter that's going to meet in Monterey on Sunday, January 28th, starting at noon. She's got some fun activities planned in addition to a potluck at her house. Everybody welcome to join. Email or text her. Her text is 408-833-9868 or jenniferfilzen@gmail.com. Ken, thanks for being here, man. You're the best. You and your family are truly, truly awesome with all that you do, the mission work in the Philippines, all that great stuff. We really appreciate having you.
Honored to have you as a part of it, Ken. We love you.
All right. So now we are on to number 4, who is a strikingly handsome man. He looks straight at me because he knows I always compliment him on his looks. He is a local here in Jacksonville, Florida. He's a local surfer, Bill Shields. Bienvenidos al show, Bill Shields.
Yo.
Oh, Bill,
I
man.
love listening to you speak Spanish, Pablo. That's why I started that so long ago.
I was gonna say, like, what is the start of the Spanish? The intro, the welcome that you have. Was it just a random moment? You're like, his last name is Gonzalez. I have to come with the Spanish lingo.
I just started hearing those rolling R's and the tongue roll and and I just saw his face every time he said something in Spanish. I'm like, I got to do something with this. So that's
Do you speak Spanish
short,
anywhere
short,
else in the world other than the Not Your Average Investor
pretty
show?
much just here. Me and Google speak Spanish pretty well on this show. So that's sorry to disappoint anybody, but yeah, I speak very little Spanish, but I love hearing Pablo speak Spanish. So I like to hear him repeat stuff I say on the chat.
Well, we're working our way into our Spanish only show, and the first guest that we have in the Spanish only show will be Senor Bill Schultz.
Senor Bill Schultz.
Well, Bill, you and JWB, you and Jacksonville go way back. You're local here. I think you probably know JWB from the inside out more than maybe anybody else who's a part of the Not Your Average Investor community. Many people don't know this, but Bill actually helped me build my own house here in Jacksonville, and he's a draftsman and has helped design many house plans for JWB. So many of the homes that you all own as investment properties, they started out as house plans, and Bill probably drafted those. So you know a whole lot about what it's like to be a vendor of JWB, a friend of JWB, and then a part of this community. And, I think you bring the local perspective. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as being a native here in Jacksonville. What are you seeing as far as the overall outlook here in Jacksonville with your boots on the ground? What have you noticed as far as change either in the real estate market or just in the overall growth of Jacksonville?
Oh, it's a great place to be. I mean, the growth is that to me, I don't see anything slowing down. If anything, it's staying steady or picking up. I mean, working with you guys, it's like, here's 20 projects to work on. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with here? But I mean, it's like, like you said, with the construction supply, there's still such a shortage, it's like, how are we ever going to catch up with that? And that's just the one simple factor that I look at. And, this city having the Jaguars and having you guys and, all these people that are investing in the community and the downtown and everything is just an exciting place to be. So it's
what's maybe the most exciting thing? If we've outlined a number of the different projects, and we've been able to have Mark Lamping on the show, who's the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and been able to kind of highlight some things. Out of everything we've highlighted or everything you've seen, what's the most exciting part of living in Jacksonville right now?
That's a tough question. I'm just sitting here waiting for my set if you can't see but beyond that, from a business perspective, I think it's just the continued increase in the prices along with how our market's just continuing to grow, and just to be here and be, on the forefront and, be working with you guys since 2015 and just watch and learn. I actually bought a house in 99 that I ended up selling. I rented for a year, that ended up selling. It was like our first family house. And I rented it not knowing what the heck I was doing it. I just had a Watson or somebody rent it out for me. And I'm like sitting here going, this is kind of easy, but it just didn't click. It's like I could have started way back then, but that's something I still kick myself about. But now it's like working with you guys and seeing what you do. I don't know, it's just Jacksonville to me is just an awesome place. I mean, you're close to the beach, you got, just lots of growth. Everything's kind of central. We're spread out, but we're small, we're not really small anymore. It seems like we're growing leaps and bounds, but it's hard to pinpoint one thing for me. It's just the whole, view and a business. I'm just thankful to have been working with you guys and then really get kickstarted whenever you started this show. I read all the books everybody talks about, and then just kind of lit a fire in my butt and was like, all right, I got to do something. So I'm working towards it still, but I've made a couple other decisions and haven't been able to invest yet, but I'm working towards it for sure.
We're not going to let you get away without investing sometime soon.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
and Bill, I was just going to say, you and me both, man. You and me both, right? Being part of this community, I would not have read Rich Dad Poor Dad had I not been shamed into it for about 9 months, and all these other books and all this like knowledge by osmosis. I think this is the core tenet of what this is from a business development exercise. This is hey, if we surround you with enough people that you like and want to be like, and they all happen to be investing in JWB, it makes someone want to do it, right? Like on a little secret behind the curtain. But yeah, man, I am a story just like that. And I think it's awesome that, we're just a couple of local guys that like to surf and happen to be part of this community. And that makes us real estate investors and makes us want to be better, man. Did you get in on it the last couple of weeks, man? That was a great run.
No, I missed the last one. It got big. It's hard to get out in that cold water, man. It's like,
Yeah.
it's after 30 minutes, your hands and feet are numb. It's like, I can't even hardly surf after being out there for 30 minutes, but it's like, yeah, I missed it, but I saw some pictures. I was like, dang, that was serious.
It was all time, guys.
Yeah.
It was like 15, 20-foot waves and guys getting barreled in there.
What?
Like
No
it
way.
was too big for me. Like it wasn't about the cold. I was just scared.
Oh my. Wow. I had no clue.
Well, we appreciate having you, man.
Appreciate you, buddy.
We'll see you at the summit, right?
Oh yeah, we're coming. I'm just trying to get the numbers nailed down, kids and wife and stuff. So, but I'm going to be making a decision today. So
Cool.
Love it.
We'll see you
some
soon.
of us will be there. I don't know if all of us will, but at least me and Robin will be there. So
Cool. We'll
More
see.
the merrier.
Yeah, we'll see you soon, Bill.
See you, buddy.
Thanks,
all
man.
right.
All right. Number 3 is a man that has been here for a long time, but has a pretty recent nickname,
Mhm.
FYI, right? It took us a while to dial it in, but at number 3 is the Shaman, Nadim Shah. Welcome to the show, number 3, my friend.
Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Greg. Hi, everyone.
Nadim, we
Yes, sir.
want to ask you, you look much younger than you are, right? Like everyone's always shocked, right? Because you look so good at this age, man. But I know that when we talk to folks, the number one thing I always hear is, oh yeah, great. Real estate. Awesome. If I would have done this 10, 20 years ago. You want to tell us a little bit about your experience of like at your age, making this an asset class that you invest in and like how the show fits into that?
Yeah. So one day, my son-in-law, he sends me a link and he says, listen to it. So I click on that link and it's JWB. And I said, okay. So I listened and I thought about it. And then the next day they asked me, say, what did you think? I say, interesting. So Keith Weinhold was on your show and I listened to him. And after the show, before the show was over, he said real good stuff about JWB. And I said, I have to check these guys out. So I asked if I can join JWB chat and webinars. And that's what I did. And I listened to you all for about maybe 4 to 5 months. And then I decided, okay, it's time to buy my first rental property. So I dived in and I bought my first rental property. I think that was in 21. And then I've been pretty steady, on this show. I love all the people here. I learned from all the people here. I learned from Greg. I learned from Pablo. I learned from Lee, Jan Filton, Ken, and, a lot of good experienced investors in here. I'm just a baby. I'm a newbie. So anyway, then in 2022, I bought my second property. And after that, I went ahead and I, spread my wings a little bit. I bought a property in Texas. I bought a property in California. I bought a property in Arkansas. Danny, I know you are in Arkansas. The property I have is in Cabot, Arkansas. So since then, I went in partnership with my son-in-law and my daughter, and we bought a 4-plex and we bought an 18-unit apartment building.
Congratulations.
Go.
Thank you. And my plan for this year is to add 2 more properties to my portfolio. And one is going to be with JWB, and the other one I haven't decided yet. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Thank
What a
you.
story there. And if I think about what drives me on this show is, bringing access to this asset class to everyday people. And when people can understand this asset class, you know, it should have a seat at the table in their financial portfolio. So what brings me to just getting excited is, listen, people don't have to buy all of their properties from JWB, but you know, when that starts to click in your head and you're like, I can have rental properties in my portfolio. And then they start to build out their portfolio. And many times that's with JWB, but many times that's with, you know, different places in the country too. That is a huge success of this show. So I'm so excited. I'm curious for you, Nadim. You had your son-in-law who kind of brought you in and said, hey, listen to this. Then you did your own due diligence for about 4 or 5 months listening to the show. Do you remember maybe one thing that stood out to you and said, hey, listen, this makes a lot of sense. I want to add 30 or some properties over the next few years to my portfolio because of this? What was maybe the 1 or 2 messages that resonated the most with you?
Well, the 5 profit centers.
We hear that a lot.
Yes. So that was the main thing. And, you know, me investing in property, I like to see a little bit of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what JWB gave me.
Perfect. As soon as we could help people see the big picture about how this pays you more than other assets typically pay you, or 5 different ways, that made sense. And then to be able to satisfy the cash flow needs through this asset class, which is hard to do in many other places that people are investing.
Yeah. Super inspirational, Nadim. We talk a lot about folks and their JWB portfolio, but there's also a large contingency of people that this is just the door in, right? Like they start investing this way, they fall in love with real estate, become more active or diversify across the country, but it's really all about education, right? Like again, not to talk about myself all the time, but I'm that story. I'm going now into a more active investment role, buying my primary resident, being the landlord to the duplex next door. And the idea that this is a gateway for people, I think is great. Like for real estate and education.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. Nadim, you're the man, sir. Congratulations on your Washington Huskies, my friend. I hope
Thank you.
bring home a national championship.
We will do it again next Monday.
There you go.
All right, buddy.
See you, Nadim.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
Thank you.
All right. Coming in at number 2, somebody that I believe everyone has heard of, and I think somebody that people might be surprised he's number 2. But as far as value to the community, he's the MVP.
Absolutely.
He's number 1. Lee Bishop coming in at number 2, buddy. How does that feel? Are you upset that you're number 2?
I didn't know where I sat in the thing. I was on the edge of my seat, as they say.
I don't think you can ever make Lee upset. I you know, like, when is he not smiling? Look at him. He's the happiest guy I know.
Well, you got narrowly edged out in competition as far as attendance goes, my friend. But you, sir, are the MVP. You have spent more time on the phone, away from these calls, with anybody. You have been here since day one. You are one of the pillars of the foundation that this community has been built on, man. And nobody's ever going to be able to take that from you. My biggest question to you is, from a selfish standpoint, because I need to understand this, you spend a lot of time talking to people, right? Like, you are so willing to give out your cell phone in the chat. You hop on the phone, you know, in your business where you're finding funding for folks as well. What is the biggest kind of like pains? What are people coming to you with off camera, asking you questions of like behind the scenes? What are people struggling with to kind of like conceptualize in order to take that leap into real estate investing?
Yeah, I appreciate being number 2. I know there's a couple of times that I missed, so I know that's tough to beat how often I've been here, because I've been here a lot. But
yeah,
it's glaringly obvious, I think, when I'm not here.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, everybody that I've talked to, like, I love giving out my phone number, and I love talking to people on, you know, about investing with JWB, because I believe in what these guys are doing. I think it's fantastic for Jacksonville. I think you guys do a wonderful thing, and I could not be happier with my investments. And originally, when I was giving out my stuff, the people were asking me, hey, what's been your experience with JWB? And, you know, it was one of those things where I was like, Greg, are you sure I can say the good and the bad? And you said, absolutely. What, you know, if we did it bad, we need to know, and maybe we can fix it. But the bad thing was, you know, such a weird thing that happened, and you guys jumped all over it and took care of it. I was like, well, I got no complaints, and really what it was somebody moved into the house. They were vetted by JWB, and then this girl had her brother move in, and apparently he just got out of jail and was involved in drugs, and somebody shot at the house. And when JWB called me and said, we had somebody shoot at your house, I said, oh my God, is everybody okay? Like, I'm worried about the tenants and how they were. And JWB took care of it. They got the people out. They said, you lose your first, you put the deposit down, you lose that. They got them out. They fixed the door, fixed everything. Nothing was turned into insurance. And it was taken care of. I was happy. And within a couple of weeks, I had a new tenant in there. I was amazed at how quick it all went. It was smooth. It was wonderful. I couldn't believe that, because we were coming down in February, and I said, hey, we're going to go look at that property and see how it looks. And it looked brand new, because it was brand new, 1 month old, and somebody moved into it. And then the house gets shot up. I was like, oh my God. And so, that was the only negative that I ever had. And so, I think when I talk to people, they hear how, I guess the leap of faith was I did my vetting of JWB, and people needed to understand how they feel about it and needed references to talk to. And I said, hey, if you need any kind of thing where you're saying, I'm on the fence, I'm not sure how I feel about it, how comfortable are you with investing in? And I have been very comfortable and very happy with how everything has turned out. So when I talk to, everybody's a little bit different. Well, how did you get into it? What did you do? Because there was a couple of shows I was talking about using retirement money. And so people were calling me up after that, and then I was chasing that stuff down, and how I got it. And it wasn't really financial engineering for me. It was, let's cash in my portfolio for stocks and turn it into real profit money and buy an investment, turnkey investment house. So that's what everybody's different that calls. And after they talk to me, they say, do you mind if I call you again? So it's not only, they don't call just the first time and say, is this guy pulling my leg? Is this guy full of SH? And the more they hear it, the more they say, I'm not changing my song. I'm not changing my tune. It's been a great ride, and I plan on investing more. But, it's that when I get calls from people, they want to know that, in fact, I'm wearing a JWB shirt and I kind of laugh, but everybody that talks to me says, oh, so you work with JWB? And I got to tell them, no, I don't work for JWB. I work for Lee Bishop.
I think it's easy for people to get that impression. You have been such a force in this community that most people think that we pay you to do it, or there's some type of incentive. The incentive for you has been this community itself, right? And
your team, Greg. Honestly, if I didn't believe in what you guys were selling and what you guys were doing and how well you were doing it, and every time we've come down and seen your team, I've been impressed with every new member that I've met. And I'd like to give a shout out to Michelle Ryan, who is my new portfolio manager.
Nice.
I love her. She's doing a great job keeping me, right on the answering all my questions and calling me before I have questions, which is awesome.
That's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. I just think we're so thankful that we have you, and we have a few others too that, just give so much of their time, and you're real. This whole thing about this community only works if there's real people who are here because they want to be here. They have a story to tell, but it's not influenced from anything other than just kind of like what's in your heart. And you wear your heart on your sleeve. Everybody knows it from the very first moment they get to see you. I know when people get to show up and meet you at the summit coming up in February, I know you guys are going to be in store for a big Lee Bishop bear hug, because they're really good. I get one every time.
And the laugh that you can hear for blocks.
And the laugh that you can hear for blocks.
Yeah.
So we're just appreciative of you, man, and you and Jane and your whole family. We just love you guys.
Yeah, I love the IRLs, and Jen did one we guys did one in Pittsburgh, and had a blast there and met some wonderful people. And, if we can get more of that going on, we'd love to see people, and we're going to be moving to Texas this next year. So there'll be probably something in Galveston. I'm sure there'll be a beach home down there for me somewhere.
Let's
Everybody will be
go.
saying, "Hey, where's Lee staying now?"
The good times follow Lee. And
Good
then they will
times
follow
follow
the
Lee. Good
Texas.
times follow Lee. I would like to dangle one more time the IRL meetup that we're having, the Not Your Average Investor Summit that we're having February 16th and 17th. Go to jwbsummit.com to meet Lee, which is by itself worth the price of admission.
Yes.
In the last IRL meetup, I got multiple stories of Lee as a wild man, Lee as a guest comedic character on a radio show, and also how he met his wife by itself is also worth, because Jane keeps up. It is no coincidence that they were together. Lee, love you, buddy. Thanks for being the MVP, my friend.
Thanks. Continued success.
Yeah, man. And now we have a true mystery man. He has now earned a new nickname as of today because he's here week in and week out. He is the #1 attendee of the last year here. He is in charge of over 10,000 staff and family members in what he does. He serves our country dutifully. And for the first time ever, a name that we have all heard, but nary have we seen.
Ooh.
You like that? Is Colonel Denny Davies.
All right, man. Congratulations.
#1.
Well, thank you, Pablo, Greg, and everyone. I will say this it has to be rigged to get me out from the shadows, because I'm sure Lee is the real #1, but I'll take the honor. Thank you.
The amount of times I have hit up Denny, I'm like, Denny, can we please share your story? Can we please put you here on the show? Can we please do that? It is quite an honor to have you for so many reasons, Denny. You know, our relationship goes back well over a decade now. You and your family have invested with JWB, and I'd just like to shed some light on that story because I think it is the epitome of what we hope to do for families out there. And it's not just an investment relationship. It's much more than that. It's a friendship, of course. But what I like to share with folks, and I think it'd be great for you to shed some light on it too, is that it hasn't always been perfect, our relationship as far as the investments. You know, when you're investing in single family rental properties, sometimes it can be somewhat complicated. And there are some ups and there are some downs. But when I think about our relationship and knowing, you know, the amount of trust you've put in our team, not just in the moments where things were sky high, but also some of the challenging moments. And that trust, I think, has continued to foster and be built. And that's the foundation that we get to, you know, serve you with as we now are going into our second decade of service for you. So can you kind of share, folks, what your experience has been, you know, going through the good times, going through some of the challenging times, and how much this relationship matters for you?
Sure. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be on with you folks. It is an honor to be with this esteemed community. I will say, before I answer your second part about the ups and the downs, my origins with JWB, like most folks here, I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book back in the 2011 timeframe, I think, and you know, something about the way Kiyosaki wrote that book just really. It made me realize, man, from an investment perspective, I am not anything on the side of the ledger that I want to be on. I'm on the other side of the ledger. How do I go about doing that? So I started to do some research on the internet, and I can't remember if I came across an Alex podcast or an interview or something first, or the JWB website first, but I stumbled upon both about the same time. Ended up calling up the office and setting up a visit. And a visit back then was very interesting, because that was back when you guys were in I'll call it an oversized house, it seemed like.
Exactly.
With about, I think there were 13 or 14 teammates at the time. But the walking in there, let me back up a second. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the big part of that book that I was struggling to wrap my head around was the team aspect. Kiyosaki kept talking about how you have to have a team, and your team needs this and this and this and this and this. And I thought in my head, man, that is overwhelming, that I need to build a team in order to invest the way that I want to invest. Well, on that trip down to Jacksonville, I realized I don't have to build a team. I need to associate myself with another team that has already been built. And I tell you what I saw when I went down there, in fact, I got to meet all four of the big four, if you will, while I was down there. But I got to spend some significant time with Adam Eisman, and he and I really connected on many levels. Mutual love of sports. You know, Adam in a previous life worked for the Houston Astros organization, and he and I remain good friends today. And I tell you what I saw with the four of you guys was a group of millennial leaders that were hungry to take on the world, not just for your own sakes, but to make a difference in the world. And I tell you what, as a military officer, I'm at this point in my career, I'm pretty good at identifying good leadership, solid leadership. And I identified that within probably half an hour of being on your old campus down there back in 2012. And you mentioned that the results haven't always been easy. My portfolio managers it lists off like a who's who. I had Lauren Traxler, now Alleman, Mike Stetson, Jamie Crawford, Tara DeShong, Ashley Hatton, and now Jim's our portfolio manager. But just phenomenal people willing to go out of their way to work the problems. And we've had a few problems over the years. A number of eviction filings, a number of evictions. You know, one of our evictions, when all told, all said and done, between the rent that wasn't collected, the vacancy, the maintenance, totaled $17,000 on that particular turn. So we have seen some rough days over the years, but the two lessons that I really want folks to take away from that comment are: we've seen rough days, but yet JWB still exceeded the numbers that were quoted to us when we originally started investing. By far. I mean, we're talking by massive amounts that I didn't even dream possible, even with all of the troubles that we've had. And part number two is I often see folks typing in the comments, and I've heard it on this show a couple of times, man, I wish I'd invested before. I will tell you what, there is a dynamic in the way that JWB runs property management now that has been born through sweat and tears over the last decade and a half of learning from mistakes, learning from what's the best way to do that, who are the best teammates to bring on board with JWB. I will say the best time to invest is right now. In fact, Eric and I put our money where our mouth is, and we just recently closed on another house toward the end of 2023, even though we've already got a ton of properties with JWB. But it's that desire to be a part of that team concept well into the future. I see this relationship going to the day I die, to be honest. And I can't thank you all enough.
Man, that's Danny, I just feel like you get us so at such a deep level. You get not just the investment, and you clearly understand even beyond just cash flow, right? A lot of times we have to work with folks to help them understand the 5 profit centers. You clearly understand that when you see how this investment has performed, even though we've had some challenges. But you get more than that. You get about, the team concept. You get, how this is a team sport, but it's that team that's so important. And then, to be able to work with people that you can trust so that you can perform the duties that are so much more important that you get to serve our country for. So you just get who we aim to be. And it's just such a beautiful relationship. And I wanted to say thank you. And I thought it'd be fun to paint the picture a little bit more about how you came to know JWB early on. When we talked about that big house, it was a salon that JWB originally started in. It was our first office building. And when Denny came in, I remember getting to meet Denny as well. He came in, and at this point there were probably, I don't know, maybe 15 teammates working out of JWB. Denny, I don't know if you were there before or after, but I think it was when we had sinks in every single one of our offices at that time. That's right.
Every single office. And the best part of the day was the lunch gathering around the big table in the center of the complex there.
Now, obviously, you are an incredible leader in your own right, and you are an incredible judge of character and talent and leadership. But what about that converted salon and sinks and putting a whole bunch of lunch meat on the kitchen table and calling that family lunch? What about that stuck out to you as being the next great, relationship for you?
It was the conversation. It was the vision that you guys had. I think something that really stuck with me. One of my first questions was, and I'm thinking I'm going to trip them up here, what city are you going to next? And I can't remember if it was you or Adam. One of you just jumped on it right away and said, no. This is at the time Jacksonville Wealth Builders. There's a reason for the J. It's Jacksonville focused, and we believe that we can do the most good for the most people right here in Jacksonville. And I thought, okay, I can get on board with that. He answered very quickly. So that sounds good. And I tell you what, here we are, 12 years later, and you guys continue to answer that question the exact same way. You are committed to Jacksonville. You're committed. I mean, you're literally putting tens of millions of dollars of money where your mouth was years ago to make Jacksonville of the future what you guys have in your vision in order to enhance the quality of living for everybody. And, you know, us investors that don't live there, we're happy to be riding your coattails along for the ride. As Pablo likes to say, you know, put our chips next to yours and everybody wins at the table.
Man, I love it. And I just love that we're going to be able to spend some more time with you, and that everybody's going to be able to spend some time with you here at the summit coming up in February. I couldn't be more excited to be able to spend time, have this community come together, and then for people to see that vision of the downtown that isn't just a far off vision now. It's happening. And for those who were here a year ago, you're going to see some changes. And for everybody who gets to come to the event, to the summit, we're going to share with you what it's going to look like in 2 years, in 5 years. And as you continue to come to the summit each year, you're going to see this vision become more of a reality.
Danny, I'm just glad I finally got to meet you, man. I love hearing your origin story. To let you know my origin story of learning about you, I remember very distinctly on one of our like Tuesday or Thursday morning runs, and we're like passing by like those Sevilla apartments, and Greg is like, man, I'm so pumped that, you know, because you started becoming a regular probably about like 2 years ago or something like that. So pumped that Denny Davies is on this show. And he's like, you don't understand. Like, we have this, he's been here for over a decade. He is a military serviceman. And on top of that, we went through all these hardships together. And I remember him, having this like real moment and us having to win that relationship, and to think that we are now here 10 years later, and he's an active participant of the show, and who he is and what he represents and how much he gets it. It just means the world to me. So like you've been a legend to me since like the first couple times that you started checking in, but now you are forever immortalized here as the number one perfect attendance. And it was great to get to talk to you today. I can't wait to see you in February here, and just thank you for your service and what you are for this community, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Happy New Year, and see you next month.
All right. So now we are going to bring us all up here. This show, GC, and to all of you, right? Like, I remember our first fan appreciation show just coming to end of 2020, being like, should we do a fan appreciation? Do we, is this real?
Exactly.
Do we have a real community that would show up for something like this? And this idea that we have such a real community of folks. I see all of your faces. We see the chat and how many friendships have happened inside the chat. How many friendships have been, crystallized in the Jacksonville meetups, and the meetups away from Jacksonville that Jen has helped us, our fairy godmother has helped us join and made this all really real. I just want to say that this is from a professional standpoint of, I don't know. I don't have kids. And to me, this is the greatest achievement that I have ever, like being able to like bring this group of people together, and knowing that these bonds last beyond anything that is happening here financially, beyond anything that is happening, like on today, that this is a real thing that we're all going to remember, and I will never forget for the end of my life. Greg, I want to thank you for taking a chance on doing this community thing, because it has absolutely changed my life forever, from a personal standpoint, from a professional standpoint, and just from a mindset standpoint of what is truly capable when you bring a bunch of awesome people together. So I just want to say thank you for doing this, showing up today. Thank you for the community that shows up every day in the chat. And we're going to have another fan appreciation at the end of this year.
Brother, man, I don't know what to say. I want to say thank you to all of our Not Your Average Investor community, especially our esteemed top 10 list. And, I think it's really clear everybody on this top 10 list has gone from being a part of the show to coming and meeting up in person. We've all had that benefit of coming together and getting to shake each other's hands. So I want to encourage you to be a part of that, and to be a part of the summit as it's coming up. And thank you, brother. thank you for everything, your heart, your soul, all the effort that you put into making this community what it is. It was an idea that you had, and I was like, hey, I got the right person as a partner here. We're going to give it a whirl, but you have built this thing really from nothing. And, we all have something special that we get to cherish, not just for what it is, but for, the impact we get to have on our lives for many, many years to come. So thank you. Thank you to everybody. It's been an incredible 2023. And I just can't wait for what we all, accomplish and the time we get to spend together in 2024.
I'm going to add a big, big thank you to Cody and to Kate, who were there from the beginning, to Madison, the JWB team that has really been the driving force behind all of this, that allows these, like your patience, the JWB team, and my crazy ideas.
I think that's the thing right there.
That's the thing. So anyways, you mean the world to me. This community means the world to me. Thank you so much. Thursday, we'll have a portfolio of the week. Do you see?
Yes, we do.
Coming up with some ideas of what you can solve with real estate portfolios. But from here till then, we want to see you in February. Buy your tickets. They're going fast. If we got to increase capacity, we're going to look at that and try to increase some capacity. But right now, get in when you can. But from now till then, I would like to ask us all, is there any kind of piece of advice that we can give people before the next show?
Oh, yeah.
Don't
be
be
average.
Average.
See you all Thursday. Thank you for a great year.